Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Swagel, we've heard a lot about inflation. How is inflation in the United States compared to inflation in other countries?
Well, inflation has come down a lot in the United States. Our growth is stronger than most of the rest of the world. I don't know offhand inflation in the U.S. versus other countries, so I apologize.
Okay, and interest, you mentioned interest on the Social Security program. Doesn't the trust fund make money on higher interests?
It does. That higher interest, the U.S. government, both pays more and makes more with higher interest rates.
Okay, and in your study of the ACA and Medicare, are you looking, in your study, are you looking at the question of whether or not people delayed treatment, uninsured people at 64 wait till they qualify for Medicare at 65 and get the treatment then, making it a Medicare expense rather than an ACA expense, and the fact that that treatment is probably more expensive than if they had gotten it under the ACA at an earlier stage?
No, that's right. And something we've looked at in the context you mentioned about expansions of the ACA. We've looked at it in the context of expansions of Medicare as well, that would people in some sense have better health with more access to health insurance.
And you talked about Social Security being unable to pay promised benefits at the end of 10 years if we don't do something.
That's right.
Now, how do, quote, pay promised benefits, how do the promised benefits 10 years from now compare to what people are getting today?
So the benefits that are payable are still higher in real terms than the benefits that people receive today.
Okay. Now, we know the deficit isn't just the revenue or just the spending, it's spending matching revenue. Is talking about the deficit going to do anything about the deficit? That's a rhetorical question.
I did not have an answer for that.
Are you aware that we reported a bill creating a deficit reduction commission to talk about doing something about the deficit, but before we can vote on it on the floor, we passed a tax cut of over $200 billion, mostly going to corporations? You're aware of that?
We've prepared a cost estimate for the fiscal commission.
And before we could vote on the fiscal commission, we passed a big fat tax cut. Can you tell us where corporate tax rates are historically?
The 2017 Tax Act reduced the corporate tax rate, and so it's lower now than it was before the 2017 Act.
And where, historically, go back 20, 30, 50 years, tax rates for corporations, where are they?
They're in if I remember right, is in the mid-20s, whereas now the average tax rate on corporations is lower than that.
Say again,
I apologize that I don't have offhand, but the tax rate before the 2017 Act, if I remember right, was around 25% or higher.
No, the rate was about 45%.
Was it 35? It was 35. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. I
Well,
apologize. I've worked on this in the past, but I don't have it at my fingertips.
Okay, well, the corporate tax rates are about as low as they've been in about 100 years.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It sounds right. I have to get back to you. I apologize that you can see this is like the one number that's not coming to.
Can you say a word about the effect of a good economy on the budget?
A strong economy means more job creation and more revenue, and would tend to improve the budget deficit.
Spending in the IRA on the Internal Revenue Service, what is the effect on the budget of those increased spending on the Internal Revenue Service?
So our projections show that providing more resources to the IRS allows them to provide better customer service and put more effort into enforcement, and that brings in more revenue. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio, so a net of about 1-to-1.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be back.
I thank the gentleman from Virginia and asked Director Swagel if you'll follow up with him on the tax questions.
On the tax, I
It
will.
was 35% prior to TCJ, down to 21%, but he had other questions, and if you would, please follow up with
I will.
Mr. Scott.